There is a prison that almost no one sees. It has no bars, no walls, no armed guards, but it keeps billions of men chained without realizing it. This prison is called constant pleasure, and the key to the cell is inside you. While you think you are enjoying life, you are being drained, manipulated, and programmed to be weak. The Matrix doesn't need to beat you. It just needs to give you enough pleasure. And when that happens, you sabotage yourself. The brutal truth: men addicted to pleasure will never be free. And behind entertainment, casual sex, pornography, and social media, there's an invisible engineering that shapes your mind and drains your energy. But there is a path. The path of the man who has learned to master his own body, silence the noise of desire, and reclaim his inner throne. In this video, you will understand why this type of man leaves the Matrix game and enters a dimension of power that few even imagine. Take a deep breath, because the truth you are about to hear will be unsettling, but it may also be the beginning of your awakening. Welcome to the invisible war and the chance to win it. Most men believe they are free. They work, eat what they want, sleep with whomever they can, watch what they please, and say they do what they feel like doing. But this freedom is a carefully crafted illusion. Because the truth is, they don't do what they want. They do what they've been programmed to want to do. And that's precisely where the prison begins. This prison is comfortable, silent, and highly addictive. It has no iron chains or high walls. It has algorithms, dopamine, pornography, social media, and superficial relationships. It hides behind what men believe makes them more manly: easy sex, immediate pleasure, and freedom without responsibility. But deep down, this false freedom is what turns them into invisible servants. Men addicted to pleasure don't build empires. They build routines. Men controlled by desire don't win battles. They ask permission to exist. The modern Matrix understands this perfectly. It doesn't need to put you in a concentration camp. She offers you a comfortable bed, a bright screen, an artificial girl, and an escape valve for your existential frustration. You are kept docile because you are always one click away from relief. And when pleasure becomes too accessible, the purpose dies. Have you ever noticed how the most dominated men are also the most reactive? They get irritated easily, waste energy on trivialities, are dominated by women, and cannot sustain inner silence. This happens because their energy is constantly being drained. They lack containment, and those who lack containment leak out. The average person is like a leaky bucket. They try to fill themselves with validation, likes, pleasure, and cheap achievements. But they never feel fulfilled because their essence is being sold day after day in exchange for small reliefs. But what the average man doesn't realize is that every time he gives in, he weakens. And here we're not just talking about masturbation or pornography, but all kinds of misdirected pleasure, excessive eating, constant distractions, purposeless passions. All of this is a subtle strategy of the Matrix to keep man in a state of arousal, but never of fulfillment. A warrior who lives excited, but never focused, is a warrior, defeated before the war even begins. Therefore, the first step to liberation is to see the prison, not the prison of the system, but the prison within oneself, the prison of uncontrolled desire. This prison was not created by you, but it continues to exist because you feed it. With every click, every swipe, every orgasm given over to nothingness, the world has taught you that pleasure is synonymous with happiness, but what they haven't told you is that pleasure without purpose is just waste. A waste of energy, of time, of masculinity, of spirit. For centuries, spiritual traditions have warned, the man who governs his pleasure governs kingdoms, but the man who is governed by it will always be a subject. And here is the central point of this chapter: as long as pleasure is your master, you will never be king. The Matrix wants weak men, obedient men, men who cannot resist a stimulus, who cannot stand being alone, who cannot tolerate silence or rejection. Because men like that pose no threat to the system. They adapt, they mold themselves, they fall silent, they get lost. But the sexualized man, the one who learns to contain desire, to redirect his energy, to not depend on external validation, that man begins to see the bars disappear, because he is no longer being pulled by impulses, but guided by a purpose. That man begins to rise not in social status, but in clarity, magnetism, and invisible strength. The same force that makes others notice your presence even before you speak. The same force that transforms words into authority. The same force that pulls you out of the majesty without needing to hide. And this force is born at the exact point where pleasure no longer controls you. Excitement has become the fuel of the modern mind. We are surrounded by stimuli, vibrating screens, bodies that offer themselves sounds that provoke. Everything is designed to keep you connected and at the same time empty. The Matrix understood something that many men still ignore. A constantly aroused man is a chronically weakened man. The problem of arousal is not just physiological, it's existential. It steals not only your energy but also your presence. A man who lives thinking about the next turns, the next sensations, the next desires, is a man who has ceased to be in the present moment. And it is in the present moment that power resides. Constant excitement changes your chemistry, your perception, your spirituality. It distorts your values, reduces your patience, and sabotages your long-term vision. You start thinking in terms of gratification and no longer in terms of building something. How many projects have been abandoned because short-term pleasure won out over the discomfort of discipline? How many relationships have been destroyed because desire spoke louder than truth? How many men have ceased to be legends because they chose orgasms instead of legacies? Excitement, when constant, turns into noise. And the more noise there is inside you, the less clear your intuition becomes. Pleasure becomes your guiding star, but it never points upwards. It always points outwards, away from yourself. The truth is harsh. Every time you seek excitement, you distance yourself from your essence. You become a spectator of yourself. You start living through the eyes of others, through the curves of social media, through vibrations that last no more than a few seconds. And when that becomes the norm, your soul begins to rot silently. Most men don't notice this decay because it's slow. It doesn't hurt like a cut. It slumbers like a poison. You gradually lose the sparkle in your eyes, the clarity of your ideas, the firmness in your words. You stop being a creator and become a consumer. You stop being a man. You become an excited child in an adult's body. And here is the truth that nobody wants to hear. Too much excitement is a sign that you are energetically unstable. True masculine energy is centered, firm, and constant. She doesn't waver with any stimulus. She chooses her moment. She has direction. But a man who lives in constant excitement is like a candle in the wind. Any breath throws him off balance, any image distracts him. Any woman dismantles him. And that's why so many men feel empty even after pleasure. Because excitement steals more than it gives. She promises intensity and delivers weakness. She seems like life but feeds the slow death of the soul. It's no coincidence that the great masters, from warriors to monks, spoke of restraint, not as moral repression, but as energetic self-mastery. Because whoever does not master excitement will be dominated by it and will live like an emotional beggar, always in search of a new stimulus, a new peak, a new distraction, never satisfied, always restless. Matrix counts on this. It needs you to be excitable, impulsive, anxious, because that makes you predictable. And the predictable man is never respected. He is manipulated, used, and discarded. But when you start to notice the excitement and not immediately respond to it, something changes. You start to see the game. You begin to remember what it means to be whole. You begin to regain your center. And this recovery doesn't happen by shouting. It happens in silence. It happens when you look at desire and say, I don't need you now. I am with myself. That is the beginning of respect. Not the respect of others, but self-respect. The seed that brings the king back to the throne. The sword that cuts the invisible chains. Excitement can be an immense creative energy, but only when tamed, only when purified, only when redirected. And the man who learns this stops chasing the next sensation and begins to build the next reality. Have you ever walked into a room and, without realizing it, all eyes turned to a specific man? He didn't say anything, didn't make grand gestures, didn't try to draw attention, but he was there and everyone knew it. That's the power of the masculine aura, an invisible field that can't be explained, but can be felt. A silent magnetism built not with muscles or words, but with refined, directed, and contained energy. A man's aura is like a shield, but it's also a signature. It tells the world who you are, long before you open your mouth. And what few understand is that this aura is directly affected by how you deal with your pleasure. When you constantly waste your sexual energy, your aura weakens. When you seek validation, pornography, easy arousal, your light is fragmented. But when you hold, transmute, and elevate this energy, your field becomes dense, luminous, almost palpable. This is the secret of the ancient spiritual kings, the warrior monks, the silent prophets. They didn't dominate crowds with shouts, but with presence. And this presence came from inner purity, from the integrity between mind, body, and spirit. Today we live surrounded by noise, by men who talk a lot but say nothing, by influencers who show strength but lack focus, by seducers who master words but cannot sustain their own energy. That is why the man with a pure aura stands out. He is rare, he is sought after, he is felt, and more than that, he is respected. Not because of the money, not because of the car, not because of the clothes, but because he carries something that cannot be bought. Vibrational coherence. His energy doesn't lie. His silence has weight, his words have firmness, and his presence transforms environments. Women feel this, men feel this, children feel this, because the masculine aura is a language that everyone understands, even unconsciously. And here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. You can go to the gym, study public speaking, wear the best clothes, but if your energy is broken, none of that will work. Energy doesn't lie, and people's souls perceive it. You don't need to go around saying you're holding back, that you're on a spiritual journey, that you're seeking self-mastery. When your aura aligns, the world notices it on its own. But building that aura requires sacrifice. You must cross the desert of desire. You must endure the silence of abstinence. You must face the shadow and not run away. Every time you resist the impulse, your light intensifies. Every time you choose silence instead of stimulation, your field strengthens. Every time you choose purpose over pleasure, your aura becomes a shield. That's the difference between an ordinary man and a real man. The ordinary seeks stimulation. The real sustains the center. And the beauty of it all is that no matter where you are now, your aura may be fragmented, dimmed, wounded, but it can be rebuilt with each day of restraint, of meditation, of integrity. With each aligned decision, with each denied impulse, you rebuild your invisible throne. And this throne doesn't depend on titles, palaces, or worldly glory. It's within, and when you sit on it, no one else dares treat you as a servant. The Matrix wants you to believe that power is external, that it's in appearance, performance, and achievement. But true power is the silent vibration of one who has become whole. And this wholeness begins with the choice to no longer sell oneself for crumbs of pleasure. Many men confuse women's tests with manipulation, but the truth is more subtle and more revealing. Women test because they feel and they sense when their energy is not stable. These tests are not random. They are unconscious invitations to their elevation. These are hidden doors disguised as provocations, irony, and mood swings. They are ways that feminine energy finds to verify if the masculine is present, clean and centered. When you are in a state of restraint, in inner silence, in vibrational mastery, it perceives not because you said so, but because you emanated. And the stronger your energy becomes, the more it will be tested, because the awakened masculine activates the feminine in search of truth. She wants to know, is this man real, or just another one who feigns control while trembling inside? These tests aren't malice, they're reflections of the cosmic dance. Feminine energy tests to reveal whether there's foundation or appearance, trunk or shell, presence or just words. And here's the truth the modern world hides. No woman respects a weak man. No matter how much she loves you, she may feel compassion, she may have affection, but she will not follow you. Because the feminine, in its essence, wants to rest and only rests in the masculine that does not waver. When you fall at the slightest stimulus, she notices. When you lose emotional control, she feels it. When you seek approval, even subtly, she distances herself. But when you remain still in the face of the storm, when you listen without reacting, feel without getting lost, observe without falling apart, she recognizes, this is a man I can trust. This is a pillar. And trust for a woman doesn't come from physical strength, but from energetic strength, from her capacity to contain, to sustain, to protect, even in silence. You don't need to control the woman. You need to control yourself in her presence. That's how she feels safe. That's how the dance finds balance. That's how feminine energy flourishes. When it finds a vibrational field where it can rest, many men fail here, confusing restraint with coldness, thinking that being firm means being rigid or suppressing emotions. But true dominance is like a mountain. It may rain, be windy, thunder may strike. It remains there. That's the kind of man a woman tests and respects, because he doesn't seek to validate her. He doesn't try to control her, he simply is. And this pure, vibrational, stable being is more seductive than 1,000 well-spoken words. A man overflowing with sexual energy doesn't need to chase after anything. He is pursued by his own presence and yet remains whole. The tests will continue because life tests all the time. But what changes is your response. You stop being reactive and become a reflection of your own depth. And the deeper you go, the rarer you become. And the rarer it is, the more naturally you attract. Because the woman who tests deep down wants to find someone who doesn't need to justify themselves. Someone who doesn't desperately want to be accepted. Someone who has already found themselves. Retention isn't just about semen, it's about chemistry, about presence. About the silence that says, I don't need to prove anything. I know who I am. This is the man who doesn't need to compete, doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to show off, because his being already speaks self-sufficiently. Women test, but it's you who defines the result, not with words, but with vibration. And when your vibration is firm as a stone, but gentle as a river, she understands. This is not just a man. He is a sacred rock, a silent king. It is a spirit that dominates its temple. We live in an age of noise, information overload, overstimulation, pleasure just a click away. And behind this curtain of distraction, a precise engineering designed to keep you unloaded, scattered and distracted. But there is a weapon that the system cannot control, a gesture that confuses algorithms, a posture that disarms every attempt at domination, silence. Not the silence of cowardice, but active, conscious, vibrational silence. The stillness of one who does not react, the presence of one who does not sell out, the invisible. Strength of one who guards their energy like a warrior protects their sword. Have you ever noticed how the system hates silence? How everything around you screams the notification, the short video, the headline, your body, your shout, your ego. But silence connects you to what cannot be manipulated, to your center. And at that center lies what the system fears most, a man who knows himself. Because a man who knows himself doesn't bend, doesn't need to prove himself, isn't distracted by empty promises. He sees through the masks, and that's dangerous. That's why the system ridicules retention, because it's the beginning of reconnection. You stop searching outside and begin to inhabit the inner temple. And the inner temple is silent. There is no pornography there, no racing, no performance, just you and God. Silence cuts through the illusion. It reveals what you truly desire, and also what enslaves you. When you enter into deep silence, you realize that most of your desires have been programmed. Programmed to keep you tired, anxious, consuming, chasing after something that never satisfies you. The man in silence begins to hear not the cries of the world, but the voice of his soul. And that voice will tell you, you were created for more than this. More than clicks, more than orgasms, more than likes, more than validation. But this message is only audible in silence, and that's why it's so rare. Retention is a pact with silence, because when you contain your energy, you stop reacting, you stop begging for tension, you stop imploding from within, and you begin to observe. You begin to rebuild yourself in silence. You understand that your energy is not here to make you popular. It's here to transform you, to harden you like stone and mold you like gold, to take you out of the matrix and place you on the invisible throne of truth. The system wants you, shallow, needy, and exposed. Silence makes you profound, whole, and invisible. The system wants you noisy and incoherent. Silence makes you coherent, even when silent. That's why the masters spoke little, because each word was preceded by many inner battles. They didn't speak to convince, they spoke to reveal, and silence revealed even more. When you learn to remain silent in the face of desire, silent in the face of provocation, silent in the face of doubt, you become uncontrollable. And the uncontrollable man is a threat, because he doesn't follow trends, doesn't bend to agendas, doesn't sell himself for pleasure. He carries an invisible code, A firm gaze, a presence that disturbs, but also awakens. The world doesn't need more shouting. It needs more silent men who know the weight of what they carry. Men who master their energy and therefore master themselves. Silence is the sword of the initiate. It is in silence that you cut ties with the matrix. It is in silence that you free yourself from pornography, anxiety, and neediness. And in that silence you become king, not of others but of yourself. Every time you surrender to pleasure. Without awareness, a piece of your soul fades away. Your masculine strength is diluted. Your vision becomes blurred, your will weakens. That is why the world is full of men who speak of purpose, but live constrained. Who dream big but fall before any stimulus. Desire itself is not the enemy. It is the raw material of creation. But when it is hijacked, it becomes your prison. Do you feel this? Have you ever felt the weight of regret? Have you ever experienced the emptiness after the click? Have you ever sworn it would be the last time? But you came back and wonder why? Because you didn't understand that this isn't just about sex. It's about energetic sovereignty, about protecting the sacred fire that lives within you, about ceasing to be reactive and starting to be creative. Every serious spiritual system has always treated desire with reverence, because it is a key. Either you use it to ascend or it drags you down. That's why ancient warriors trained not only the body, but also the mind. That's why kings took vows of chastity before battles. That's why masters spoke little about sex, because they knew that without mastering desire, no victory is real. But today, the average person laughs at this, calls it nonsense, makes jokes, and becomes enslaved. The true battlefield is not the cell phone screen, it's your soul. It's the moment when you are alone and need to decide, to fall or to hold back, to seek pleasure or to hoard power. Restraint is not a trend, it's a shield, it's a sword. It's the spiritual response to an invisible war. You don't need to be perfect. You'll fall, you'll stumble, but every time you resist, you rebuild your inner wall. And the stronger that wall, the harder it will be to knock you down, and the more your energy will begin to bother the system. Because men who don't sell themselves for pleasure, don't sell themselves for anything. They walk differently, look differently, speak differently, because they know this is the war and they chose to fight. You wake up in the morning, even before opening your eyes, your cell phone vibrates. Images, notifications, stimuli, and in seconds something inside you is already agitated. You think you're in control, but a war has already begun. And it's not with tanks, bombs, or gunfire. It's a war for your life force, a war for your desire. We live in a society that has learned to profit from your instincts. Everything around you has been designed to activate your deepest impulse. Sexual desire. Why? Because desire is the engine of reality. It drives your attention, your actions, your choices. And if you don't control it, someone will use it to control you. Social media knows this. The pornography industry thrives on it. Advertising depends on it. Politicians, artists, gurus, they all subtly manipulate desire. And while you think you're choosing, you're just reacting. You're not free. When your desire is commanded from the outside in, the war is invisible because it takes place in the realm of images, sensations, and needs. There are no soldiers, but there are wounded soldiers, millions of empty men, without focus, without purpose, with lost gazes and bodies surrendered to silent vices. Men who were made to build, protect, govern, but today can barely go 3 days without collapsing. And each fall seems small, but it carries a very high price. The fragmentation of your being. There is a forgotten nobility that still pools within you. It is not the nobility of blue blood, nor of inherited titles. It is inner royalty, the kind that is born when a man stops chasing pleasure and decides to reign over himself. Because whoever governs their own desire governs the world. But the throne of this kingdom is invisible, and to sit on it you must die. Die to vices, to haste, to games, to the need to be approved, applauded, desired. The true king is not the one who conquers with his body, but the one who conquers through the silence of his spirit. He has learned that sexual energy is the basis of his power. But it is not the end, it is the beginning. It is the fire that can warm your home or set everything around it ablaze. It is the arrow that can be shot against oneself or pointed upwards towards the divine. This man does not run from desire. He faces it, he transforms it, and consecrates it. Therefore, his presence carries something rare, gravity. When he enters a room, something changes. because he is not seeking anything. He is whole. This is the king who needs to prove nothing, who doesn't bend at every turn, who isn't distracted by promises of cheap pleasure. He has learned that the greatest pleasure is consistency, mastery, clarity. You've seen this look in monks who walk as if they were in another dimension, in wise men who speak little and say everything, in the warriors who protect but do not beg for love. That is the gaze of one who reigns from within. And that is the revolution the system doesn't want you to see, because men who become kings of themselves are impossible to manipulate. They do not consume like slaves. They do not sell themselves like objects. They do not trade their energy for crumbs of pleasure. They know their semen is sacred, not out of superstition, but through observation. They have felt what happens when they hold on to this power. The body rises, the mind clears, the soul shines, and the world notices. This brilliance is unsettling. It attracts challenges, but it also awakens, because there is something divine in the presence of a man who is whole, something that reminds other men of what they could be. If they stopped running from themselves, mastering desire doesn't mean not feeling. It means feeling everything and still choosing. Choosing not to react, choosing not to get lost, choosing to reign. That is true power. Not the power of having women, but the power of being impossible for them to buy. Not the power to conquer the world, but the power to conquer one's own inner chaos. When you do that, when you transform raw energy into silence, into presence, into service, you become more than a man. You become a king. And the world is hungry for kings, not for dominators, but for silent, strong, whole leaders, embodied in something that pleasure cannot buy. You are that man, but you're not ready yet. The good news, you can begin now without saying a word, without expecting perfection, just by stopping, sitting, breathing, holding back. And in that simple act of containing what the whole world has taught you to pour out, you take the first step toward the invisible throne. And when you sit on that throne, no one can take it away from you. If this spoke to your soul, then you already know what you need to do. Don't keep this truth to yourself. Share this video with other warriors. Comment below, I choose to reign over myself.